Imagine stepping into the earth, into places where darkness swallows light, where every breath counts, and every wrong move could be your last. Around the world, caves have fascinated explorers for centuries. They promise mystery, adventure, and beauty, but they also hide dangers that few people truly understand until it's too late. In today's video, we're going to take you inside some of the most gripping and tragic cave incidents ever recorded. These are not just stories of stone and water. They are stories of human courage, mistakes, survival, and loss. Before we begin, if you enjoy learning about hidden places, untold stories, and chilling real events, make sure to subscribe to Cave Explain. That way, you'll never miss our deep dives into the unknown. Now, let's go underground together. Our first story begins in the summer of 2004 at a well-known diving location called Ginnie Springs in Florida. It was a warm evening on August 21st when 24-year-old Brian Tyndall arrived with 3 of his friends. Brian wasn't new to diving. He had been exploring underwater worlds for 3 years and had completed over 100 dives in open water. He was young, experienced, and eager to test himself against the mystery of the caves that lay hidden below. His friends had different plans that night. 2 took a canoe, drifting along the calm waters, while another decided to snorkel at the surface. But Brian had something else in mind. He wanted to push further, to enter the underwater cave systems known by divers as Little Devil, Devil's Eye, and Devil's Ear. These are names that have drawn adventurous spirits for decades, names that suggest both beauty and danger. Brian suited up carefully. His tank read just 500 psi of air, not a lot, but enough for short dives. He strapped on his gear, checked his LED light, and dropped beneath the surface. At Little Devil, about 30 feet down, he squeezed through the narrow entrance and emerged into a wide, cathedral-like chamber. The rock formations shimmered under his flashlight, ancient and unmoving, as if he were the first human to ever step there. Excited, he turned back to the surface to share what he had seen. Then came Devil's Eye, deeper and broader than the first. At 40 feet, he found multiple dark tunnels stretching into the unknown. He swam just far enough to glimpse their black mouths before returning, his excitement growing. To his friends on the surface, he spoke with the energy of someone who had found a secret world. He was thrilled by the discovery, but he didn't yet realize how dangerous his curiosity could be. As the night deepened, Brian dove again and again. Each time, the air in his tank grew lower. By around 2 in the morning, he checked his gauge and saw only enough air for 12 minutes. Still, the lure of the caves was irresistible. He told his friends he'd be right back, and descended toward Devil's Ear. This cave's entrance was wider, easier to enter, but it opened into long tunnels where even a moment of hesitation could be deadly. Brian dropped into the passage, following the beam of his light as the ceiling slowly lowered. The tunnel squeezed narrower, until it was just 4 feet across. He saw a chamber beyond, a dark space that promised discovery. Confident, he adjusted his position and tried to push through. That was when disaster struck. His tank valve caught on the rock above. He pushed forward, tried to back out, but he was wedged in place. His movements stirred the fine silt on the cave floor, and in seconds the water turned to mud. His light reflected only brown haze. His heart pounded, his breathing quickened, and every breath ate away at the last of his air. Alone, trapped, and in darkness, Brian's final moments were panic and silence. At the surface, his friends grew uneasy. They scanned the water for his bubbles or the glow of his flashlight. Minutes passed with no sign. Their calls echoed across the spring, unanswered. They knew something was wrong. Help was called, and a diving instructor familiar with the caves descended. In the tight restriction, he found Brian wedged, lifeless. It took careful work to free him, and nearly 10 minutes to bring him to the surface. By then, it was far too late. From Florida, we moved north to Ontario, Canada, where in June of 2015, another man found himself in a battle for survival underground. His name was Seth Rowe. He was 30 years old, an outdoor enthusiast who loved wild places. On that summer day, he ventured into Singap Conservation Park with just a headlamp. He told no one of his plans. He had no ropes, no safety gear, just curiosity and confidence. The cave he chose was not marked on maps. It wasn't a tourist attraction. It was a narrow crack in the earth, no more than 20 inches wide at the entrance, leading steeply downward. As Seth lowered himself inside, the walls pressed in on his shoulders, squeezing tighter with every foot. At its narrowest, the passage shrank to just 15 inches. It was claustrophobic, unforgiving. Seth went carefully, but when he reached a jutting stone that blocked his way, he wisely decided to turn back. But fate had other plans. Near the entrance, he braced his foot against a small outcrop to pull himself upward. That stone, worn by centuries of water, crumbled under his weight. In an instant, Seth fell 36 feet into the earth. His body slammed against jagged stone before coming to rest in a tight crevice far below. He was alive, but battered, bruised, and trapped. His cries for help echoed up through the rock, faint and desperate. Hours passed. Night came. Seth began to lose hope. But luck intervened. 2 hikers passing by heard his faint voice and followed it to the crack in the ground. They saw the glow of his headlamp far below and called for help. What followed was an extraordinary rescue. Emergency teams arrived, lowering water and blankets to keep him alive through the night. Working with chisels, they began carving away rock, inch by inch. For 22 exhausting hours, they labored until finally, Seth was pulled to the surface, pale, bloodied, but alive. Unlike many cave incidents, this one ended with relief instead of tragedy. Not every story ends so well. In 2003, in Guerrero, Mexico, a group of tourists entered the Gruta del Rio Contauquatlan cave. Their guide knew the routes, but lacked proper safety training. The descent was steep, dangerous, with loose rock that shifted underfoot. Among the group was Maria Santos, a tourist eager for adventure. She carefully tested every handhold as she descended the rocky slope. Then came the moment that sealed her fate. Another climber above dislodged a rock. It fell like a bullet, striking Maria on the head. The impact was devastating, both knocking her unconscious and sending her body tumbling down the slope. She struck rock after rock, each blow adding to the fatal trauma. When rescuers finally reached her body hours later, there was no chance of survival. What had started as a vacation adventure had turned into horror, a grim reminder that caves punish carelessness and inexperience without mercy. From Mexico, we travel to the Caribbean in 1994, where 2 friends, David Parks and Jerry, decided to explore a hidden cave pool. They were not trained divers, but curiosity overruled caution. With only snorkels, lights, and courage, they climbed 70 feet down into a shaft and entered the dark waters of an underground pool. What they did not know was that the pool connected to a web of underwater tunnels with only small pockets of air along the way. At first, the experience was exhilarating. They swam through passages, surfaced in a larger chamber, and rested on a rock ledge. But when they decided to return, panic struck. Their movements stirred the silt, blinding them. David became disoriented, lost Jerry, and began to run out of breath. At the last second, his hand found a tiny air pocket, but the air was stale and suffocating. He knew he couldn't stay. Pushing off once more, he followed the faint glow of Jerry's light through the murk. Just as his lungs gave out, he broke the surface beside his friend. Exhausted and shaken, they climbed out together, lucky to be alive. Fast forward to 2022, at Roaring River Cave in Missouri, where experienced divers attempted a deep technical dive. Among them was 27-year-old Eric Hahn. His role was to place backup air tanks for others venturing deeper. He used a rebreather, a device that recycles air and extends dive time, but also carries risk. At nearly 200 feet underwater, something went horribly wrong. Eric collided with another diver, then rocketed upward in panic. He struck his head, his breathing faltered, and oxygen toxicity triggered a seizure. Despite desperate attempts by his teammates, Eric's body sank to the bottom, where it was later recovered. Even the most advanced equipment and training cannot erase the dangers of deep cave diving. Finally, we come to December 2004 in Mexico's Sistema Sac-Actin, the longest underwater cave system in the world. 9 divers set out with confidence and careful planning, splitting into 2 teams. Team A marked the route. Team B followed. But a single wrong turn led Team B deep into confusion. They swam further into the cave, thinking they were heading out, until they realized their mistake. By then, their air was running out. In the panic that followed, 2 divers barely made it back, rescued at the last possible moment. The other 2 never surfaced alive. Their empty tanks were found later, silent testimony to how unforgiving caves can be when even experienced explorers lose their way. And so we see a pattern repeated across these stories. Caves are beautiful, but they are also unforgiving. They demand respect, preparation, and caution. For some, they are a place of wonder. For others, they become their final resting place. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for joining us on this journey through darkness and danger. Stories like these are not meant to scare you away from adventure, but to remind us all of the thin line between awe and tragedy when we step into places we don't fully understand. Before we go, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Which of these stories struck you the most? If you were in Seth Rowe's place, trapped in the earth for nearly a day, do you think you could have kept calm? Would you ever attempt a cave dive yourself, knowing the risks? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more gripping true stories from around the world, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Cave Explain. Your support helps us keep exploring the world's hidden mysteries and bringing these stories to you. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, every cave has its secrets.